What? I do not.
Come on, Jared. What are you doing? You just napping on the job?
Indeed, I am.
Taking a nap. Right. I feel like I was shot at. Yes, sir.
Did you see they released video of that Conway football coach?
No. Where is it?
Probably the Myrtle Beach area site. I hadn't actually seen it. I just saw the video. No, the incident that wasn't because
You haven't watched it?
I hadn't watched it. I just saw the video.
I will go pull that.
What? So I heard you talking with.
Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
You got one of the shortest guys on the field, and you got one of the tallest guys out there, and they're competing. They're going against each other. Things happen. They worked it out. DA and Captain, they're veterans in this game, and they did what veterans do. They went to the sideline, they talked their problems out, and, we're good to go.
Welcome into Sports Talk. That cut, by the way, Thomas Davis after the Panthers minicamp workout today. Captain Munnerlyn. Remember him? Former Gamecock, now a Carolina Panther.
Again.
Yeah, former Carolina Panther. Turned Carolina Panther again after a little moonlighting in Minnesota. He got into a little scrum with Derek Anderson, of all people. Not every day that you see a quarterback and a cornerback fight, although it's really not uncommon in Panther country. Cam Newton is known to mix it up with defensive players from time to time. Him and Josh Norman, the Coastal Carolina product, had a little dust up in Spartanburg not that long ago. But yeah, you're going after the backup quarterback if you're Captain Munnerlyn, who was always known for being an aggressive player, even in college. But we'll hear more from Thomas Davis. I like
Thomas Davis got into things with Cam
mixing
Newton
it up.
there too.
Thomas Davis, Jared was saying that Cam Newton was involved in a little scuffle. He's not even practicing right now because he's recovering from rotator cuff surgery. But anyway, we'll get into all that later. Hope everybody.
I know why. Anytime you hear a fight at a mini camp, that means it's over 90 degrees. And they're mad at the heat, and they can't take it out, so they take it out on the player that bumped them.
We'll get into all that a little bit later in the program. Jam-packed show. Kornbluth took the night off. No Korn tonight. He's on a golf course somewhere. Trapped, I'm sure. I think he was hoping to be done, but he's probably shooting about 140 on the backside, trying to get things done. So he is off tonight, and I'm glad because it saves us from having to hear Korn talk about his golf game. But we will talk a little golf tonight, just not about Korn's golf game. The U.S. Open tees off tomorrow in Wisconsin. Dustin Johnson will be out there trying to win the U.S. Open once again. So what will happen there, we'll find out. We'll have George Bryan on with us in our next hour. He is in Wisconsin, roaming the course, taking it all in.
And it's kind of interesting that it would tee off right when I think the Midwest is having for middle of June. They say is one of the worst heat waves they've had up there. I mean, Wisconsin has had 90s up there in Wisconsin this time of year.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a heck of a tournament. I love the U.S. Open. They'll have the rough, high, knee deep, where people will be complaining that it's too hard. That always happens, watching the professionals talk about how the course is too hard. We all do it, and it's nice to see the pros scuffle, and I hope one over wins that tournament. I would have no problem with that. The Major League Draft is winding down. You know, they do like 7,000 rounds in the Major League Draft, but it is finally winding down. A lot of locals were selected today, so we'll give you the recap. One of the real cool names to come off the board today was, to me, this is the story of the draft, maybe anywhere. But Charleston Southern outfielder Chris Singleton was selected in the 19th round by the Chicago Cubs. And anybody that recognizes that name certainly probably familiar. Almost 2 years to the day from the Emmanuel 9 shooting when his mother was murdered in Charleston. And he was kind of the face of that tragedy in terms of the recovery when he had the news conference and he stood out there and said, you know, love trumps hate. You know, he was kind of a catalyst in the healing process in Charleston and, quite frankly, around the country. And he was drafted today by the Cubs. And look, this isn't a sentimental draft pick. They didn't pick him because of his story or, you know, some kind of feel-good pick. Those things do happen in the 40th round. He went in the 19th round. He earned this. He was a heck of a ball player there for Charleston Southern. So that's a really cool story with Chris Singleton selected by the defending World Series champs.
And, of course, we can go back. I guess the player they talk about the most, I forgot, he got drafted in the double-digit rounds, was obviously Mike Piazza, who's now in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the godson of Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah.
He went very late and turned out to be okay. And you wonder how many of those favors end up being pretty good. But, yeah, they're just trying to round out the rosters. They have all these minor league teams to fill, and you're living a dream. I don't think – would you rather get drafted as an afterthought in the 40th round? You always say you were a major league draft pick, and you got to be pretty good. It always reminds you just how many guys are out there playing baseball right now that are draft eligible from the high school to the college ranks. And we talked about this last night. You're seeing a lot more college guys going and a lot more people choosing to go to college. In fact, one of USC's big players, Jacobson, today announced, the outfielder, announced that he is going to go to school, even though the Gamecocks are kind of in flux, not kind of in flux. They are very much in flux, but he was drafted but opted to stay as an amateur and go back in the draft later, and he's going to go to South Carolina. And these guys are realizing that 2-3 years in a college program can prepare you for the draft. Unless you're a pitcher that goes early, a lot more of these guys, if they're going in the 10th, 15th, 20th round, they're going, you know what? I won't get paid, but I'll go in a college program. I will mature physically and mentally, and I'll still have an opportunity to get paid and play professional baseball and be a better player for it long term.
By the way, I looked it up. Piazza was taken in the 62nd round.
They don't have 60-something anymore. Right. Now they stop at 40, thankfully.
You know, I don't
for anybody that has to follow that thing.
I don't know if the powers that be saw this coming, K-Mac, when they made the decision. I thought it was a great decision that they did years ago when they started to, negate the gorilla ball by dealing with the bats. And the residual effect of that now is that it's no longer different than a major league game. A good college game almost mimics a major league baseball game. And so now the pitchers as well as the hitters play a major league type game. And we're seeing more and more. If I'm not mistaken, they're close now to the college players who went to college. There's more of them in the majors than those who didn't. So, going to college now, you're not having to change your game in it, even though the bats are still metal. They're not as, as powerful as those gorilla ball bats back in the day.
We'll give you the highlights again from today's draft. Some more players off USC's roster going. Quite a few Clemson players selected today and other guys around the state. So we will recap that. Just mentioned, wanted to highlight Chris Singleton coming off the board there from Charleston Southern. We'll also take your phone calls. This is a great opportunity to chat with you about anything that is on your mind here as we are kind of rounding into maybe officially hitting what we call the dog days of summer. Now, the ACC and SEC media days are coming up in less than a month. They pushed all that up, so the dog days won't last as long. The countdown clock, what are we at? 80-something days now, give or take a few days until opening weekend. But it drags. I mean, you get your vacation, you have some distractions, and next thing you know, the football season is right around the corner. But we're going to get you through those dog days. We're always open to talk a little football. We've got the College World Series. Obviously, no local teams, which is a disappointment. But who's your pick to win that thing this year? Is Florida State finally going to get it done? Is Kevin O'Sullivan at Florida going to break through and get the ring?
Well, you know, Pat Casey is laying in the woods up in the Pacific Northwest. Oregon State looks good.
They sure do. Now, they have the distraction with their pitcher.
Yeah,
but all that going on.
They made Vandy look ordinary.
They did.
They did.
They really did. They look very good. And now they're on that big stage once again. We're going to run off to the break. We'll be right back here on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266. That is the toll-free number. You can also hit us up on Twitter at SportsTalkSC or drop an email at talkback@sportstalksc.com. Our website is sportstalksc.com. Lots of recruiting, news, and notes and other things available for you free of charge at sportstalksc.com. There's also a link to watch the show live and in color, or listen to the show via audio, or find one of our many great affiliates around the Palmetto State where you can tune us in and enjoy the programming. One question we posed on Twitter tonight for USC and Clemson fans, a football-related question: what game on the schedule scares you the most here in mid-June? Looking at the schedule next season, the one that you look at and it kind of gives you anxiety, the one you look at and you pour a little extra bourbon in the glass when you're looking at that one. Which game scares you the most if you're USC? Which one scares you the most if you're Clemson? We'll get some of your responses there. You can also hit us up on the phones and share your responses with us if you so choose. 800-956-7266. Interesting thing in the state newspaper today, an advertisement in the state newspaper. It looked like a half-page ad, maybe a full-page ad. Not sure. Just saw a picture of it shared online. And it wasn't for a business or a company or a political advertisement. It was an advertisement that was posted by Chad Holbrook in the state newspaper as a picture of Chad running towards Wingo in the 2010 College World Series clincher. And it says, "Thank you, Gamecock Nation, for 9 incredible years. Our family is blessed forever. To thee, sincerely, the Holbrooks." So Chad Holbrook taking to the local newspaper to thank South Carolina and the fans for 9 seasons. And now that there's a little oxygen between the Holbrook era ending officially and whoever the next coach is going to be, I'll say this, and look, we've all been pretty staunch defenders of Chad Holbrook, and that's no secret, and that's fine. And people can agree or disagree. There, like I said last night, there's really no reason to relitigate the reasons or for and against that move. It's happened, so it's done. But I do think that South Carolina baseball fans will appreciate Holbrook's contributions a lot more as time goes along, as they follow guys that move on into the pro ranks, that came through South Carolina, that came to South Carolina because Chad Holbrook in part recruited them, and also as both an assistant and as a head coach. And also when time passes between those national championships and that run, it'll be greater. The appreciation will remain, I think, on just how difficult that was and what a big part of that run he was. So, the next guy is going to have his work cut out for him. The expectations are sky high. Who that next guy is, well, we still don't know. But
you'll have you want to give him 2-year honeymoon period? Well,
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you get a 2-year honeymoon period naturally. And that old cliche, you don't ever want to be the guy to follow a legend. You want to be the guy that follows. You want to follow the guy that follows a legend.
Right.
That's the way that works, and I think that will ring true. Monty Lee's been at Clemson 2 years. The Tigers have hosted a regional twice. They were a national seed his first year, but they haven't made it out of a regional. And doesn't mean Clemson has had bad seasons. They've won 40-plus games every season. But if Clemson doesn't make it to a super regional in the next year or so, I think people will start going, well, what's going on, Clemson? It used to be the expectation at Clemson was always Omaha. That was stitched in their hats.
Yeah, Jack had it put on the back of their caps.
And to me, I think that shouldn't be the expectation. The goal is always Omaha. The goal at South Carolina and LSU is Omaha every year. But if you don't make it, it doesn't mean your season has been a catastrophe and has been a failure. You can have a great season and lose in a regional round and still accomplish a lot of great things. You can have a great season and lose in a super regional. You can have a pretty average regular season and end up in Omaha.
Yes.
I just get hot at the right time. We've seen it happen time and time again. So it'll be intriguing to see what happens here over the next week or so. You've got to think Ray Tanner is at least zeroing in on somebody. I know everybody always wants to know, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? The truth of the matter is we could throw out names, and you've seen the names. We all know the names that are out there and the direction they're going to go. Are they going to look to Michigan? Are they going to look to Wake Forest and try to snag a coach? It could be a name that you're not hearing. That's usually how it works. I almost always say when you see those initial list of potential candidates, just throw that one out. That are use that as a list of guys that is not going to be. It's very rare that somebody on that initial list of potential candidates is hired. Not always the case, but very, very often is not the case.
I think it also would be interesting to see what philosophy the coach has who they bring in here. Because you remember everybody used to joke that Ray was similar to the old Baltimore Orioles manager, Earl Weaver, and they didn't believe in giving up outs. I don't bunt. I want the 3-run homer. And then they said, well, at least when Holbrook came in as an assistant, he got Ray on occasion to play small ball when they needed a run because they had the great closers. And then, of course, Holbrook was chastised when he started bunting as the head coach. But getting back, what I was saying is, it just in my mind came back when I look at college baseball the way it is now. I just think that in my mind, the winning formula that's consistent, that's being used now, and this is only my opinion, is Louisville's. Because what do? Their big thing offensively is to put pressure on your defense. Are we going to get runners thrown out? Yeah, on occasion. But guess what? We get a run on first, we're taking off. So you might as well look for it. And I just think hitters, if they concentrate, if they're good, don't even pay attention to the guy going, you just obviously get more fastballs, in my opinion, than slow breaking pitches. And those are what guys look at when they want to hit it. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of philosophy comes in here, who Ray ultimately hires as coach.
In a sporting event that will almost certainly not live up to the hype. I can guarantee this now, but a lot of people will separate themselves from the $50 or $100 that it'll cost to watch on pay-per-view. A big boxing match has been set pro between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, 49-0, taking on a guy that's not even a boxer. So that's not really going to be a fair fight. A guy that now, McGregor's what? UFC, right? So he's a UFC fighter going into the boxing ring to take on one of the all-time great boxers.
Well, it's just one of these things where
it's just going to be a bunch of hype.
Yeah, people want to see another reality show.
And they're going to get it. They're going to. Here's what I guarantee will happen. I'll save you the $100. They're both going to talk mad smack. I mean, they are going to say awful things to each other. There might even be a little scrum in the weigh-in, and people won't. They can't wait. I mean, because they're going to say such awful things about each other that they know they're going to want to beat each other up, and it's going to be this vicious war, and then it'll end up being a little tap fest. And the end result will be Mayweather will win, and they might just dance around the ring and nobody will get close. Either that or McGregor will get DQ'd because he'll go back to his UFC ways and drive them into the mat and just keep punching them. Maybe that's what people are hoping will happen.
That's what.
But I'm guessing that it'll be more of just like the Pacquiao Mayweather fight, the last one, and you watched it and you go, "Why did I spend that time of my life that I can never get back watching that?" We'll be right back.
But that will be to run tomorrow. I mean, I'll write it tonight. Yeah.
This guy has stuff about the.
Sports Talk rolling along on a Wednesday, getting you over the hump. We're going to take you into the backside of this week, lead you into an outstanding weekend here on the Palmetto State scene. A hot one, but we'll cool you off for some great sports discussion. Live from our downtown studios on Main Street, a stone's throw away from the state capitol. We're glad you're with us wherever you have us dialed in around the state. 800-956-7266. If you want to be a part of the program, certainly reach out and grab a line. You can also hit us up on Twitter at SportsTalkSC or drop an email, talkback at SportsTalkSC. We head down to the Holy City. Thomas, he leads us off. Thomas in Charleston. Hello, Thomas in Charleston.
How you doing this evening?
Outstanding. Hope you are.
I'm doing good. Conor McGregor, he's going to shock a lot of people because he was a boxer in Ireland before he took up MMA.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to shock a lot of people because that's how he won most of his fights in the UFC. And as far as Mayweather, everybody says he's never been beat, but he has been beaten by a Bulgarian boxer in the amateur round.
Well, unbeaten as a pro. Unbeaten as a pro, right?
He should have lost his title when he was arrested and put in prison, but hey, that's boxing for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that have criminal records playing professional sports. That's not exclusive to just boxing. But, you know, I'd like to think that McGregor has a chance. I just don't see it. You're talking. I'm sure he's a great boxer.
I can see it because he has a hard punch. You can ask any of the MMA fighters. he has one of the hardest punches in MMA, pound for pound, and he will smother Mayweather. Mayweather starts running. That's when McGregor's dangerous.
Yeah.
You try to run from him. I've watched a lot of his fights, and he's a he's a brutal fighter.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The other thing, too, about McGregor is he can take a punch, I would imagine. But I still think it's going to be a lot of dancing around, running around. And
by Mayweather.
Yeah, Mayweather's going to run around. That's just it. McGregor, getting that shot on Floyd Mayweather, that's the problem. And then you're sitting there chasing him around, tiring yourself out, and then he's just meanwhile hitting you with body shots. That's why he wins. I don't think he's been the most exciting boxer by any stretch of the imagination in the ring. And boxing, they need stuff like this. I get it. I think they would be much better served with a fight like this on network TV, where you can draw in people rather than
like
just
a Friday night fight.
Exactly. I mean, it's just when you try to get people to separate themselves, and plenty of people will do it. Plenty of people are going to throw down that cash, 60, 70, 80 bucks, whatever it's going to be for that pay-per-view, and watch it that way. But we'll see. It gives us something to look forward to, and we're going to get plenty of smack talk between now and August 26th when they go at it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking my call.
Appreciate you calling in.
Night.
All right, thank you. All right, that opens up a line. Where are we headed next? Alan and North Augusta's up next. Hello, Alan.
Hey, Kevin, how are you, man?
I'm doing really well.
Hey, Pro, how are you? I'm not trying to exclude Pro.
Oh, I'm doing well, man.
We're all doing well. It goes without saying. We're talking to you, Alan.
Well, good. I just wanted to say, just trying on this Conor McGregor thing, he's got a puncher's chance because he punches hard. He's got a lot of power. In the first round, maybe round and a half, but it's still, Floyd Mayweather's one of the, like you said, one of the best boxers of all time. He will figure him out quickly. Conor McGregor will he'll telegraph his punches, and unless he seriously gets lucky and gets through, it'll just be a pummeling, just a defensive. He'll just box his ears off. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I wish they do this, Kevin. I wish they'd have a boxing match and then fight in the cage so we can see both.
Yeah, because if it was the other way around, if this was UFC, it would be the exact opposite. Yeah, Mayweather would have absolutely no chance, and it would be very quick. I mean, it would probably be within the first couple of minutes that Mayweather would go down. I mean, the only way this would even be a quasi fair fight is for it to be in the boxing ring. But even then, the odds are heavily in Floyd Mayweather's favor. As you aptly pointed out, he is a skilled boxer and knows how to dodge and dive and move around and stay away from any massive punch and get his shots in. I could see this thing going the distance. I could see it coming to a decision.
I agree.
But I think that Floyd Mayweather will win because he knows how to score points and win rounds. And you're going to see.
You'll finally see Conor start quitting because he'll see he can't get through around probably round 6, 7, and then it's just as bad as Floyd wants to beat him or make him look.
Right.
And I think the fairest thing to do would have him box, but make him wear the UFC gloves.
There you
How
go.
about that?
Do something.
All right, man. Have a good evening.
Thank you. It'll be intriguing. It'll be intriguing. Not intriguing enough for me to throw down and separate myself from the money. What I do is I call my neighbor who does that kind of thing, and I was, oh, well, you're watching the fight? Okay, well, I'll just come on by. I'll bring a couple cold ones and we'll watch it over at your house. I had no idea.
For the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, I stood outside a bar in Minnesota, and I remind you, that was in the fall in November. Oh, no, I'm thinking a different one.
You didn't go inside the bar,
I could see. It was $50 to go pay for it. So
you had to pay $50 to go inside to watch it?
Yeah, it's pay-per-view. So they make you pay. They're like, hey, we're going to make you pay for each view in the bar. You had to pay $50 to go inside.
Have done that. I mean, if they set up why not watch it at home? I'd pay maybe a $10 cover.
They set up a bar outside, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna watch through the window. And that's
stealing,
where me and 10 other people did. Hey, they served us drinks. But I mean, people expecting a fight in this, they're not going to get a fight. They're going to see a boxing match. It's going to be decided by points. This thing is Conor McGregor's got no chance.
I would tend to agree with you. Well, I mean, no chance. He's got a puncher's chance. All of those guys in boxing have a puncher's chance, so they all pack a punch. Like how the heavyweight division goes. Let's go to John in Columbia. Not that this isn't a heavyweight fight, but these guys all pack a punch. No pun intended. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Been listening to you for years and years, and I have my agreements and disagreements, but you are so spot on this whole thing. I mean, I don't even see the economic value of boxing. The reason why the mixed martial art phenomenon is going on is because there's action there, and people aren't paying a ton of money to watch a guy get like Tyson or something like that. Within like 30 seconds later, you're walking out after spending $100 or something like that. These guys put together, developer put together a program where you get a full night's worth of entertainment where these guys are really going after each other. And why boxing got involved with this is to me a desperate move, because in Conor McGregor, I don't see the upside to this at all, because other than the fact that he's going to make some money.
Yeah,
boxing,
he's going to make a pile of cash. I mean, they're going to have
10 years younger too.
They're going to have a huge purse. McGregor's 10 years younger. Well, that's good. I mean, that's an advantage for him. I mean, look, maybe we all watch sports hoping that we'll be amazed by something. But if history is any indicator, the odds are a lot of people are going to go, why did I spend money on that? Why did I spend money on that? But I do wish this was something that was more accessible. I don't like the fact that, because I think boxing is a great sport. Love the sweet science. I don't watch it nearly as much because there's not fighters that intrigue me as much. But I've seen some great fights.
Canelo Alvarez,
Mickey Ward and Gaddy fighting. All of those were incredible.
But the promoter, the average mixed martial arts guys are making like 20 grand a fight or something. It was unbelievable what little purses they were doing for getting their brains beat out. And then you got, these pro boxers and these champs walking around with $1 million in their briefcase, and it's just ridiculous. The punishment that these guys are going through versus a professional boxer. And I just don't see, I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Thanks for the phone call. We're going to run off to a break. We'll take more of your phone calls. Recruiting coming up as well. We'll give you the draft highlights. Sports Talk cruising along here on a Wednesday night. Kornblut is off tonight. There is going to be a recruiting report, I am told, so we'll pass that along to you as soon as it makes its way from the golf course to us. We can continue with the phone calls. We're going to give you the highlights of the Major League Draft in terms of local players that were selected also coming up. And in our next hour, we'll talk a little golf with George Bryan III and get the latest from the U.S. Open. To the phones we go again, up to Greenville, and Pat is on the line. Hi, Pat.
Good evening, fellas. I have two quick questions for you.
Okay.
First one, Frank tried to get 3 new transfers to transfer in and struck out on all 3, and I wanted to get your thoughts on why he's striking out on so many of these. And my second question is that you were discussing yesterday when you were talking about Holbrook about Coach Calvi, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
And I wasn't familiar with him, and I was wondering a little background on who he was and what was the problems with that. And I'll leave it to you and listen for your response.
All right. Appreciate the
Should
phone
I
call.
take the Martin?
Yeah, because he didn't strike out on all of them. They have a grad transfer coming.
Yeah, the big thing is that Martin, from a physical standpoint, likes big guards. And normally he's not thinking offense. He's thinking defense. That's why you saw a guy like Dwayne Otis can be a brick mason in some games, but he keeps him in the game because he plays such strong defense. We saw what happened to Duke's backcourt when they're strong, tall guards were guarding the Blue Devils. That's what he's looking for. Now, he didn't completely strike out. Frank Booker is coming from Florida, I think Florida Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
But he did play at Oklahoma on that Sweet 16 game. What he did there was he played about 15 minutes a game. He was that designated three-point bomber when Buddy Hield would come out of the game. That's what he did. He scored a lot of points at Georgia. He played high school in Augusta, Georgia.
Right.
But mainly what you're looking for there is I think some of these big guys for their senior year looking for playing time. Now, while Frank wants big guards, they kind of look at who's on that roster right now and thinking where are the minutes coming from. Rakeem Felder looks like, he and Holden right now, they look like they're entrenched. They're playing the point guard position. And then you get a guy like Hassani Gravitt is there, and David Beatty, the prize freshman guard they got out of Philly, is 6'4". So I think some of these senior guards, these graduate guards that only have 1 year to play, saying there may be not enough room at the end.
And they were going against, you say struck out, your other teams are recruiting too. They can only go to one place, and they're going to look for the best fit. But one thing you can look at with Frank Martin in terms of his pedigree and his background and his recruiting of players, and it was funny. It was the South Carolina Student newspaper. There was this hot take column that came out over the summer that Frank Martin's recruiting methods were failing miserably. That was the column, and he talked about all the guys that he was missing on. Everybody talks about the ones that get off the hook. Seventh Woods, he ended up getting out of the state. Bryce Johnson, all these guys that are leaving the state and in the backyard that he's not getting. And how is he not getting the kid from Dreer? How is he not getting this kid? And but you win because of the kids you do get and you do develop and how you coach those guys and how they fit into your system, not because of the pedigree or the names or where they're from. And whether it was at Kansas State or now at South Carolina, just referring to him from his head coaching tenure, Frank Martin has put together teams that have players that fit his system, and he usually has those big, they're big, they're physical, they're lanky, they're athletic, and they can take every inch of the court. And that's what he's looking for. And that doesn't fit every kid. I mean, Frank Martin, that doesn't, Mike Krzyzewski's system doesn't fit every kid. So, I don't panic. If you're South Carolina, don't worry. He didn't, I get back to that expression of, striking out, it didn't work out. Those guys, it wasn't the proper fit. So he went and found what they need. So I think they're going to be okay. long story short.
And then the interesting thing is he will let a recruit see a practice if it's in season K-Mac.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll see how rough he is.
Yeah.
And if they can't deal with it, okay, fine, you weren't one of mine anyway. Which is one of the things I talk about when you look at Frank's recruiting and how he gets guys from other countries. And this is just a word for some of the American players. Those guys take that roughness and they go with it and they learn. You know, there is no mollycoddling going around with Frank. So if you can't deal with it, he'll say, okay, fine, I can find somebody who can deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't sugarcoat anything with his players, but the guys that play for him, you know, people can say what they want. Those players, to a man, they love the guy. They really do. I mean, he's a father figure.
And they get to call him Frank.
They do call him Frank. They absolutely do. As far as your question about Mark Calvi, South Alabama head baseball coach, he was at South Carolina, worked under Ray Tanner. In fact, he replaced Jerry Myers when Jerry Myers became a head coach and went to Virginia Commonwealth.
Or was it Old Dominion?
Old Dominion, you're right. Yeah, sorry. He was went to ODU, and so Ray Tanner hired Mark Calvi, and the Gamecocks had made it to 3 straight College World Series appearances, and they went through the normal calibration of a program where they were going to the regionals, losing at Georgia Tech. They lost in Raleigh one year. They lost at Chapel Hill one year, lost in Greenville, and everybody was ready to blame Mark Calvi, and he was just hammered by Gamecock fans. We used to do an afternoon show here in Columbia, and man, people would light him up. The pitching coach. Baseball is a big deal, so that's not uncommon for people to talk baseball or be upset, but he took the brunt of it. He took the brunt of it at games. He took the brunt of it on the message boards. He took the brunt of it on the local talk radio shows. And they, long story short, of course, went on to win the College World Series his final season at South Carolina, and he exited stage left to a head coaching job at South Alabama, where he has done very well. And now South Carolina, flash forward several years, he's a guy that is mentioned for jobs. He was mentioned for the Tennessee job, pulled his name out of that one. He was mentioned for the Alabama job. They went with an Auburn assistant. But he's being mentioned for the South Carolina job, and I can tell you, I don't know if he would do it for sure, but I can tell you, I've talked to people that have a pretty good knowledge of the situation. He has not forgotten about that. And it's one of those adages that people always tell you in life. You always treat people well, because you never know when you're going to see that person again. You never know what kind of encounter that's going to lead to down the road. Don't be rude to people. Don't treat people with disrespect, because A, it's not the right thing to do, and B, it could come back to haunt you one day. And I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked if Mark Calvi said, you know what, I want to go back into that pressure cooker where I was hammered the year that we won the College World Series. That entire season, I was hammered and told I didn't know what I was doing and that I should be fired. I want to go in there and replace the guy that averaged 40 wins a season, made it to the postseason 3 times in 5 years, made it to 2 super regionals, was a game away from Omaha one year, that won the SEC East last year and made a super regional last year. Oh, I want to go jump into that. I just don't see that. And based on the people that I've talked to, they don't see it either. People that are very close to him. I think he's content right there at South Alabama right now. That's a heck of a program. Regular in the postseason. You can get to Omaha. You can win a national championship at South Alabama. Appreciate the phone call, Pat. Hope you're well up there in Greenville. Top of the hour break, recruiting on the other side, Major League Draft Talk. We've also got an update from the U.S. Open. We'll check in with GB3. George Bryan will join us after the top of the hour. Be right back.
King! from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Kevin McCrary and Tom Hayes.
Hour number 2 of Sports Talk here on the South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary and the Professor Tom Hayes holding it down in our Columbia studios. Hope you're doing well wherever you are around the state. Tuned in tonight. Some news coming down here on the USC baseball coaching front. Looks like a name you can cross off the list is Michigan's Eric Bakich. According to Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball, Bakich has turned down Stanford and is staying at Michigan long term. He is not a candidate for the South Carolina job. He's made it clear he is committed to Michigan long term. So Eric Bakich will not be the next head baseball coach at the University of South Carolina, according to Kendall Rogers.
Eric Bakich is I think that Jack Leggett's tree, because he was at Clemson and he went with Corbin for a little while at Vandy. Now, I can't remember where he went in the interim, but I know he was head coach at Maryland, and then he's now at Michigan.
And this is what I told people that were itching for a change during the season. And the question was, okay, you chase off Chad Holbrook. So who are you going to get? And the answer was anybody, because this is South Carolina and we have all these resources and we have money to spend and the tradition and the stadium and facilities and the passion and all those things are true. It's top notch, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to cherry pick any coach you want. And hearing names like Kevin O'Sullivan and Schlossnagel and, Bakich is the guy, people are, okay, Michigan. No, who wants to coach at Michigan, the Midwest? I mean, come down south where the weather's better and it's a baseball school, not a football school. Well, South Carolina's still a football school. And people are, Kevin O'Sullivan, he's just, not enough fans show up at the games. He's got a program in Omaha almost every year on a very regular basis. He's making over $1 million. He's doing fine. You're not just going to scoop these guys up. It's not as simple as you might think. And again, I think that might stun some Gamecock fans that if they wanted him, and there's no indication that Ray Tanner even offered him the job or wanted him. Stanford did. That's a big time program too.
Yes.
With a lot of tradition, a lot of history.
But he you notice what he's doing. He doesn't want to follow the Stafford's legend. So wait a minute. You'll just get rid of the legendary coach. Resign.
It doesn't sound like he wants to follow anybody other than himself at Michigan, where you just win. They're going to pay you well. You make it to the regionals every couple of years. People aren't going to say anything to you at Michigan. They're not going to come down on you. There's not going to be any fire Bakich hashtags if they drop 4 or 5 Big Ten series in a row. That just won't happen. So he's not going to be in the picture at South Carolina, as it would appear from D1 Baseball and Kendall Rogers, somebody that I would trust with that information to have it on the know. Okay.
Yeah, Barry Larkin went to Michigan. A lot of people don't know that. The Hall of Fame shortstop for the Reds. He played baseball in Michigan.
Let's update you on what happened in the draft today. I'm not going to go through every single pick just because that would take forever in terms of everybody with ties to the state. I'm going to hit the big schools, current players only. If you want a little more in-depth, there's places you can go to do that. We'll try to post it on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, because we do have that list. And in fact, we will work on getting that posted for you so you can go there. But for sake of brevity here, I'm just going to go through the current players that were drafted, some of the highlights. First from USC, Alex Destino to the White Sox in the 14th round. I would suspect, based on what I've heard, that he will sign with the White Sox and end his Gamecock career. Josh Reagan, who was a senior, went in the 15th round to the A's. Also Gamecock pitcher John Park went to the White Sox in the 21st round. Park will be an interesting one to keep your eye on. Clemson right-hander Alex Eubanks, who indicated that he was leaning towards turning pro, kind of let that kind of leaked out during the regional at Clemson, and he was selected today by the Rangers in the 14th round, so his career very well could be over. Paul Campbell went to the Rays in the 21st round. Tiger pitcher Pat Krall went to the A's in the 28th round. Catcher Chris Williams went in the 31st round to the Rays. Ryan Miller went to the Braves in the 31st round. By the way, the Braves are absolutely shellacking the Nationals right now, 13-2. Atlanta's playing quasi-decent baseball these days. I digress. Back to Clemson. Reed Rollman, All-American, goes in the 35th round to the Kansas City Royals. Citadel All-Conference pitcher J.P. Sears went to the Mariners in the 11th round. He led the country in strikeouts this season for Fred Jordan at the Citadel. And the Twins selected College of Charleston pitcher Bailey Ober in the 12th round. A couple of notable Coastal Carolina players that were selected today. Andrew Beckwith to the Royals in the 32nd round. Also, Will Latcham went to the Cardinals in the 17th round. And I mentioned this story in the open of the show. If you missed it, Charleston Southern outfielder Chris Singleton, the son of one of the victims of the Emmanuel 9 shooting in Charleston a couple of years ago. He was selected in the 19th round by the Chicago Cubs. So there's that. Another baseball note, Seth Beer. Beer is good, and the National College Baseball Writers Association think he is good enough to be a second-team All-American. It's the second year he's made the All-American list for them. He was a first-year All-American last year. Beer hit .298 this season with 16 homers and 53 RBIs. Also had a school record tying 64 walks. Didn't get as many pitches to hit this year, but he still hit 16 homers, hit almost 300, drove in 53. That is not a down season. Now his first season, he had a monster freshman season, but for his 2-year career at Clemson, he's hitting .333. He has 34 homers and 123 RBIs in 2 seasons. The guy is just outstanding. Well, needless to say, Beer is good.
Well, the interesting thing is, and people will say whether he was juiced up or whatever, Beer could take a lesson from looking at some of the at-bats of Barry Bonds. Remember when nobody would pitch to Barry Bonds and he just wait?
Yeah.
He knew he was going to get one pitch in an at-bat. And then if he didn't almost tag that sucker every time
he was dialed in, and some would say enhanced, but he was certainly dialed in, and it was fun to watch him when he was in his heyday. I saw the guy walked with the bases loaded. I mean, we'd rather give up 1 run here than the potential of giving up 4 to Barry Bonds.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun watching him play the game, and he certainly, how he did it, it will always be a point of controversy, certainly. But
he was a good hitter when
you
he
still
was
have
in Pittsburgh.
Even juiced or not, you still have to be able to take the pitch and deposit it somewhere. And usually he did that in McCovey Cove. We have recruiting coming up. I don't think we have time to get it all in. We also have some comments from Thomas Davis from the Panthers minicamp coming up in our next segment. So we'll hit recruiting on the other side of the break. Then we'll hit Thomas Davis, and we also are going to head up to Wisconsin in the U.S. Open and talk to George Bryan III. He's been roaming the course, so he can tell us all about that. And we have some Dustin Johnson audio, so time permitting, we'll let you hear a little bit of what DJ had to say as he tries to win another U.S. Open title. And he would be the odds-on favorite to win the U.S. Open. He's the odds-on favorite in pretty much any tournament he plays in now. Now that Tiger Woods has completely gone off the radar, off the grid, he's got way bigger problems than golf to worry about right now. Dustin Johnson is next man up. And there's been some other guys. We had Spieth make a play at it, and he hasn't gone away, and Rory McIlroy. But Dustin Johnson seems like he's got a little bit of staying power right now in terms of the intangibles and the talent to be a dominant golfer for the next few years.
Just stay away from the stairs.
And other things. Let's jump into some recruiting. You've waited long enough. Let's give you a little recruiting, and we'll begin tonight's recruiting report with wide receiver Jatavius Harris of Milledgeville, Georgia. He favored USC in early April and was getting a lot of attention from receivers coach Brian McClendon. But Harris took a visit to Tennessee later in the month for the spring game and committed to the Vols. That commitment remains in place, but Harris hasn't given up the fight, and the two are in regular contact, so they stay in touch on a pretty regular basis. He plans on getting to Louisville, South Carolina, and Florida for visits, and he says at the end of the day, it's all about communication where he feels best. He said following the Vols at the top of his list would be USC. Does not have a date for that visit with the Gamecocks. Wide receiver Josh Vann of Tucker, Georgia, made a recent visit to Georgia and worked out at one of the camps. He had a chance to talk to head coach Kirby Smart while he was there. Vann remains in touch with USC, and the Gamecocks want to see him at camp this week as well for a workout. He's been in touch with receivers coach Brian McClendon. He said they're one of the schools very much in the mix. Georgia also, as you can imagine, very much in the mix for the Tucker native. He also has Auburn near the top of his list in his top three. So it would be Auburn, Georgia, South Carolina, no order there. He wants to take official visits this fall before he decides. 2019 defensive lineman Fatui Tuatili out of Honolulu was at Clemson Wednesday, and if his family's listening, I apologize for whatever I just did to his name. USC has also recently offered him. USC is one of the top schools with wide receiver Tyquan Johnson of Sylvania, Georgia. He's also listed West Virginia, East Carolina, Kansas State, and Mississippi State on his list. Defensive back Nate Thompson of Sanford, North Carolina, has USC in his top five with Duke, NC State, Virginia Tech, and Syracuse also in the mix. Clemson has offered 2019 defensive end Curtis Fan Jr. out of Twin Cities, Georgia. Much better than the Twin Cities of Minnesota, I'm sure. Much more popular than the Twin Cities in Minnesota. USC offered defensive end Greg Rousseau, a Miami commitment. USC also offered 2019 defensive end Braylon Ingraham of Fort Lauderdale. Defensive back Stephen Gilmore Jr. of South Point was offered by North Carolina. Clemson offered 2019 defensive end Quayshawn Fuller of Fort Myers. He's a Florida State commitment. Defensive end Dontrell Barkley of Independence Junior College in Kansas says his commitment announcement is coming soon. Not today. USC, NC State, Colorado, and Colorado State are his top four. Notable campers at USC today, linebacker Channing Tindall. He's a Spring Valley kid, and defensive back G. Horn of Alpharetta, Georgia. Notable campers at Clemson today, defensive back Quindarius Monday of Atlanta, offensive lineman Wyatt Campbell of Lugoff Elgin High School, running back Jameer Smith of Sanford, North Carolina, and defensive back Quavion White of Greer. That is tonight's recruiting report. If you missed it, don't fret. It's available to you on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. And if you are following recruiting on Twitter, where all of the recruiting happens first, throw in the hashtag STRecruiting, and that'll pull up all of Corn's recruiting nuggets. Let's talk a little football, little Carolina Panthers football. Another mini camp practice in the books. It got a little chippy out there in the Charlotte Heat. Cornerback Captain Munnerlyn, the Gamecock product, mixing it up a little bit with Derek Anderson, of all people. Thomas Davis was probably right in the middle of it, but also their referee. And it, Panthers linebacker chatted with reporters after today's workout. Let's listen in on a little bit of what he had to say.
You got one of the shortest guys on the field, and you have one of the tallest guys out there, and they're competing. They're going against each other. Things happen. They worked it out. DA and Captain, they're veterans in this game. And they did what veterans do. They went to the sideline, they talked their problems out, and, we're good to go.
But there's mini camp. What do you think is going to happen in training camp by the time it's 100 degrees in Spartan?
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be good to go. We got good leaders on this football team. The coaches do a great job of, setting good examples for us as players, and, we know how to work things out.
Like him as a way of trying to get under the defensive skin, too.
That's been this thing for a long time. We don't really worry about Cam. We go out there and we compete hard. I think we do a good job of keeping it healthy trash talk, healthy competition, and I feel like that's what allows us to go out and compete the way that we do.
Does Captain bring that edge this defense needs?
Say that again.
Does Captain bring a little bit of edge that you guys need?
Absolutely. You know, he knows how we compete around here defensively, and he's one of our guys, and we'll go to bat for Captain any day, and I know he'll do the same for us.
Always with the rookies get out of things like this, but what do you as a veteran get out of minicamp?
You know, for me, minicamp is still about learning. You know, it's all about getting better at some of the things I feel like I need to work on as a player, and I don't take that for granted. That's why I'm excited to be here, excited to just come out here and compete at a high level with my teammates.
When you look around, I mean, you see Pep, Marlin, Mike Adams, guys who they played for a while. I mean, you get excited about this defense? I mean, it's a veteran defense.
I'm definitely excited about this defense. You know, we have a bunch of veteran guys that we've added on the back end, you know, mixed in with some younger players. I feel like it's really the recipe that you need to be successful defensively. And it's all about learning right now. And I think everybody's coming together. Everybody's here. Everybody's out here putting the work in. And I feel like we're getting better as a defense right now.
Thomas Davis giving you the blow-by-blow, the literal blow-by-blow of what happened at the Panthers practice today. Pro, I don't mind a little scrappiness going on. I think the Panthers really needed to get a little bit of that edge back on the defensive side of the ball. They had that great run to the Super Bowl. The Panthers, historically, they're an organization that has been built on defense and having some really great defenses that have carried them when they've made their runs. And their defense got really young last year and got really exposed, especially in the secondary. And Captain Munnerlyn is an experienced guy coming back into that defense. They signed some veterans. I mean, they have some long beards out there, or gray beards, like Julius Peppers. His hair is more salt than pepper these days.
Yeah, he's getting up there. The key point is, though, in the NFL today, it's almost like you have to have one big corner. Because I think the officials are letting them hand fight more in the secondary. And if you don't have that big corner, you can't deal with those big receivers. And that's one thing still the Panthers lack when they let Josh Norman go. So it'll be interesting to see how they fill that in. Plus, the health of Luke Kuechly. That is going to be very important. Remember, he was shut down, the last month and a half of the season because of, I don't know what concussion number this was, but you got to start worrying about Davis's age and Luke Kuechly's penchant for getting concussions, because those are your bell cows. Those guys seem to make plays at the linebacker position that others can't make. And I mean game-turning plays. So it'll be interesting to see, especially when you see how tough that division is offensively with the Falcons coming back and then more weapons in Tampa Bay for Jameis Winston. And then, of course, New Orleans offense, they just don't have any defense.
Well, New Orleans defense did get A.J. Klein, which was to be the heir apparent to Kuechly or Davis. He was that high-touted linebacker that could step in and make those plays, and he's gone now. He's out on the Saints defense.
Yeah, the Saints need more than that. I mean, I don't know how they let that defense get as bad as it did. It'll be interesting to see what Adrian Peterson brings to this offense. I mean, he's hit that over 30, and you know what they say about running backs once you hit over 30. And they may use him out of the backfield as a receiver. So it'd be interesting.
Something that he didn't do a whole lot of in Minnesota. That was not the Mike Zimmer way.
I still think if he's healthy, just see what he can do. If he can get back to where he was, certainly. And that's a big if. Because even before his latest injury, he did not look especially strong in Minnesota.
77 yards?
He had been a bell cow for them. One of the few in the NFL, those workhorse backs, and just feed them. But you only have so many carries in you as a running back, and then you kind of move along. But maybe that'll work out. I think the Panthers are going to have a big bounce back season, though. I really think the Carolina Panthers are going to be legit in the NFC South. Look out, Falcons. I like the bumper music. A little Caddyshack. Let's talk some golf. George Bryan III normally joins us on Fridays, but it's a major, so we got to talk some golf early here. Erin Hills, the location in Wisconsin. George, hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a great day.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Korn bailed on us tonight because he played golf. I think he's still chasing the ball around. I think he was at about a 122 last I talked to him, playing number 11.
Hey, that's great. I'm glad he's out. I'm proud of him.
I'm proud of him too.
What I really like best about him is once it's over, it just keeps getting better and better. The story, the farther we get away, the better it really was.
Mm-hmm. Your line with Kornblut, I use this often. Korn has the best radio game in America.
It's amazing. And like I said, I mean, the farther we get away from it, the better it gets.
Mm. So tell us a little bit about this track that we're going to see this weekend. Every picture I see, it looks like the fescue's, eye deep. Tell us a little bit about the layout there at Erin Hills.
It's large. It is the biggest golf course I've probably ever been on, and it will play as hard as the USGA decides they want it to play. It's got the ball will be hit and played out of the fairways. There will not be playing. There won't be any good golf from the sides of the fairway, and there hasn't been a lot. There haven't been any tournaments to speak of at this event, so everybody's seeing it kind of for the first time, and it is amazingly difficult. But it's playable if you drive your ball really good and long, and you control your irons, and then putt great. You can play good on this golf course.
Yes,
but it's hard.
You have
really
to be a big hitter then. So this is going to favor the big hitters, guys like Dustin Johnson that can crush it. You've got to be long off the tee here.
I don't. I think length helps, but you will be straight. You will be straight off the tee here. That's an absolute. And I think the ones that that have the imagination and the extra patience, they will have the advantage, because I don't think you'll be able to see it from TV. The greens are incredibly undulated, and you will be in position. You'll put your ball in the right place on these greens to score, and the wrong place, there's just no chance. So what I've noticed in the past is TV won't necessarily do it justice, but so you'll play golf in position. It will probably be fairly long and straight, and then the imagination. Oh, that's what I'm looking forward to see how these players negotiate the greens, around the greens, and then there will be at every major the patience. You got to have a lot of patience in these, and it's probably going to play a little bit slow. But hey, I'll guarantee you one thing: the USGA. I see why the USGA loves this venue, because no matter what the weather does, they can play the course as hard as they want to play it, or as easy as they want to play it. They have control no matter what happens with the weather, because it can't. Even if it's soft, they can play it so hard that 10 over can win, or they might let a few under win. But I'm guessing it'll be over par unless they get something unusual, unless they get a kind-hearted spirit.
George, you mentioned the weather, and the interesting point here is, and we were talking about it with one of the guys who works for the company in Wisconsin. They've just unexplainable that they've had 90-degree weather for a couple of days. If it's unseasonably sunny and warm and downright hot, what do the greens do? Do they continue to play fast, and do you have to deal with patience there, or you just try to hit that sucker as hard as you can from the tee?
Hey, you better hit it hard from the tees out here, Pro. It is going to play probably really long, but I think the way these greens look to me, I'm not exactly sure what all it's more than one grass in the green in the greens. It will withstand some heat, but typically what will happen is when they dry out, they get faster. And these greens, if they get fast, they just be incredibly difficult. They're difficult, lush as they are today, not even all that fast. And so yeah, if we get wind and hot weather, it'll play faster. This golf course could just get brutal. But again, the neat thing about it, I'm not that current with the adjustments that you make with the major championships, not the last few years, but this golf course with all the tees, the way the grass is cut, and I got to tell you, you got fairway, you got a first cut, then you got a second cut, then you got the wild fescue, and it's fairly narrow, but they can play this golf course. The USGA has control over the degree of difficulty, and that's what these organizations enjoy. They want to be able to control the test, and in this case, they can control the test.
Well, how does it shake out and lay out for Wesley's game as he makes a trek around this weekend? Well, tomorrow, hopefully through the weekend.
I think it's perfect. None of these players have any experience on it, and his imagination is fabulous. He's very creative. There's no question that in this particular event,
we've seen his trick shots. We know he's creative.
Oh yeah, he's really good. His wedge and his putter, his putting stroke is golden, and his wedges are sharp. So I think it sets up really good for him. And if it's kind of one of those things when he likes what he is looking at, he's really, really good. So I hadn't talked to him that much about. I only saw 9 holes up close, part of the other 9, and I hadn't talked to him a lot about how much he likes it. We're gonna find out this starting tomorrow, though.
Yeah, what time does it go off tomorrow?
1:15 in the afternoon, 1:14 or 15. He goes late early, which is a good rotation, and Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is pretty special. I've not been to this part of the country very often. The people up here are spectacular.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it on TV.
And make sure, I don't know if you're a beer guy, but their local beer there in Wisconsin, Spotted Cow, is the only place you can get it. So make sure you have a Spotted Cow and some cheese curds while you're up there. They're very proud of their cheese curds there in Wisconsin. All right, before we let you go, I know you're running around. What's a number that you think it might win this thing this weekend? Do you think it's going to be right around, just a couple under par, even par? What's a good score?
I would be stunned if it was under par. I think the USGA kind of likes the idea of par being the test, and I'm guessing right around par, but it wouldn't surprise me at all for it to be 2, 3, 4 over either. It all depends on. I haven't talked to many of the USGA officials. Depends on their mood, but they do have control. I will tell you, they have a lot of control on the test and what score will win.
Love the U.S. Open. Enjoy it. We'll be in touch with you this week.
I look forward to it Friday night.
Thank you, George Bryan, joining us on the line. Let's hear a little bit from Dustin Johnson, his thoughts as he gets ready to make his way around the course tomorrow.
For me, it's more. It gives me, a lot of, ownership in the fact that, what I'm doing is working, whether it's, in the gym or, my practice, it just validates everything that I'm doing that it's, it's working and I'm working on the right things.
Being world number one, being a defending champion and given your length off the tee, do you feel as though that would intimidate your rivals this week?
I hope so.
Dustin Johnson with a short answer. That's going to do it. We got the DNR podcast coming up with Jared Rogers Martin. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place on Sports Talk.